Hello and welcome back, my viewers, to this continuation of the Halloween Horror Fest Marathon of 2024. And this time, why not a game review? That's right, and this is on a game that's, well, not exactly new. Unlike Resident Evil 8 Village, which I reviewed last year, but this time it's on The Mummy Demastered. And yes, I know what you're gonna say. It's based off of a crappy reboot of the movie starring Brendan Fraser that tried to start up, of course, a whole universe with the so-called Dark Universe, which coincidentally is getting a whole section at Universal's Epic Universe in Orlando, Florida. I'm super psyched for that whole new park with Nintendo World and everything else around it. But let's not get off track here. Yes, the Dark Universe, like the Avengers, the DC Justice League, and a bunch of others. Well, this one tried to do the exact same thing, but due to this movie being an utter, complete, critical, and box office failure, I mean, what did you expect with Tom Cruise casted as the lead actor? Yes, he's done some great roles, but this movie, was just a flop from the start. And, well, it failed to capitalize on that and start up a whole shared universe, which coincidentally, if you don't know, this whole shared universe concept started with the classic Universal horror monsters, with Dracula, Frankenstein, and the Wolfman, and the Creature from the Black Lagoon, and the Mummy, and so forth. Yes, so it's more or less was trying to remake itself and bring itself back from the dead. That's right. Trying to be alive when really it just faded away. And, well, we got some other spin-off movies like The Invisible Man, which was a great movie, but not to get off track, just because a movie sucks, it doesn't mean the game based off of it has to, right? I mean, we've had several examples like X-Men Origins Wolverine, so this one, on the other hand, which I have on the Nintendo Switch, also available on Xbox One, PS4, and Windows and Steam. So, yeah, this one I highly recommend, but why? Well, let's take a deeper look, shall we? So upon starting the game, you notice 3 different save files that you can choose from, because that's what the game has. And as you start, you're summoned in by who appears to be Russell Crowe's character from the movie, who you probably best remember as the Jekyll and Hyde character. It sort of looks like him a little bit, and he appears quite a bit in this game, every time he talks to you. And the character you're playing as, I'm assuming, is supposed to be Tom Cruise's character from the film. But it doesn't look like him. He looks more like one of those Hydra soldiers from Captain America First Avenger, or Snake Eyes from G.I. Joe Rise of the Cobra, or like those Senatry soldiers from Tron Legacy. Either way, it does not resemble his character at all. But from what I've heard, Tom Cruise is very particular about his likeness being used in any video games or action figures or anything like that. I guess that sort of makes sense. But who cares? As long as the gameplay is fun, right? Well, it actually is. Aside from not really following the movie 100%, which, like I said, many times, it's a crappy movie, so I think you can let it slide. So you start out somewhere in Iraq, and you're sent underground, and it looks like a 2D side-scrolling game. That's because that's what it is all the way through. You're going through, shooting what looks like eggs from Alien. No facehuggers, thankfully, to kill you. And your weapon is a basic pea shooter, with unlimited ammunition. Decent for a starter weapon. You can jump, move side to side, which is pretty basic. You make your way through, until you enter a big treasure room, and what looks like the Mummy from the 2017 movie, telling you, all will die. Yikes, as she summons zombie versions of your character, well, different colors to be exact, and these giant beetle things. Okay, I'm assuming they're scarab beetles like in the Brendan Fraser Mummy movies. Or giant bugs, whatever you call them. This ain't the only time you see them in this game, but you fight a whole bunch of them, as well as more of these zombie guys that are trying to shoot at you and kill you. As you make your way out the way you came in, then you're treated to a still image cutscene as your adventure officially begins. And what do you know? It's a Metroidvania style game. Yeah, that's right. For any of you who are not familiar with this gaming concept, play any 2D side-scrolling Metroid game, or Castlevania Symphony of the Night, or any type of Castlevania game that uses these kind of gameplay mechanics, finding your way around, unlocking different parts of the map, because this map, as you guessed, is enormous. And it contains several different sections of different environments to explore in order to beat the entire game all the way through. Now, as I said, it's like Metroid and Castlevania Symphony of the Night, with this whole big-ass map exploration concept. But with jumping and shooting stuff, it's a little more like Contra, actually. Yeah, because the way you can aim the gun in several different directions and shoot while crouching, and even while jumping too. And yes, you can even aim and shoot down, which is useful for trying to shoot anything below you. And like Metroid, most of the enemies you kill, or objects that you can destroy, usually give you things that are useful, like these things that can refill your health. Yes, your health meter is represented in the top left corner here, and as expected, like any other video game, you lose it all, you die. You not only can get refills on your health, but also on ammunition, which is represented in the top right corner here. Yes, that's the gun you're currently using. And as I said, you start out with the basic pea shooter, but it's not the only gun that you get. No, that's right, you get several guns that you collect throughout the entire game. And those other guns obviously don't have unlimited ammunition like this pea shooter does. You get an assault rifle, pretty powerful as hell. A shotgun, don't think I have to really explain that one. Pretty powerful. A flamethrower. Yeah, for any of you who like to go pyro and take out enemies or objects by setting them ablaze. Cluster rockets, which is basically a rocket launcher that shoots off 3 of them to be exact. Hell yeah. Now we're talking. You even get a mercury harpoon gun. Okay, what are we going, shark or whale or fish hunting? Well, you actually can use it for those, but they're also useful for killing enemies and destroying objects like any of the other guns are. So, okay there. And then last but not least, you get the powerful as hell plasma beam gun. How powerful is it? Just look at this thing. God damn. Now that's what you call powerful as I'm not kidding. And you also get explosives. Yes, you get 3 different types of explosives to be exact. First one you get is a pretty basic grenade. You throw it and it explodes. It works on enemies, but where it's most useful for is, you see these wooden barrier things blocking your way? You throw a grenade, kaboom! That'll take care of it right there. But then you got the metal ones. How do you take care of those? By getting the C4 explosives. Except with these, you don't just throw them. You gotta throw them, and then you press the same button as throwing them to set them off. These metal barriers can also be on the ceiling, and yes, you can also use these for taking out enemies as well. Same goes with the incinerator grenades. Not needed for breaking open any other specific barriers, but they work pretty much the same way as the regular grenades do. You just throw them and don't have to set them off, except they not only explode, but emit showers of flames. I mean, they are called incinerator grenades. You can only hold up to 1 grenade at a time. As for guns, you can only hold up to 3. Excluding that first pea shooter you get, which you can't swap out, you can only swap between 2 of the secondary guns that you collect throughout the entire game. And if you ever want to swap them out, you go to one of these locations where you can actually refill your ammunition. That's just one way of doing it. But you can swap and choose whatever 2 secondary guns you want, and 1 out of the 3 explosives. Once you've collected them all, obviously. But as I said before, you kill enemies or destroy objects. That's another way of getting refills on your ammunition or grenades, and your health. Even though it's completely random, but most of the time you usually get the things you need. And yes, I do know the trick like anybody else does. You kill enemies, destroy objects, you leave that room, come back in, and all the enemies and everything will respawn and reappear. But thankfully, you can shoot them all over again, and all the health and explosive refills as well as ammunition that they leave behind, it'll still accumulate even after leaving the room and coming back. So yeah, you could do this over and over again. It's tedious, but it's the best way to refill your health and ammunition up all the way, because these secondary guns, unlike your first pea shooter gun, don't have unlimited ammunition, so you have to be a bit conservative and conscientious of how much you're using, and keep refilling it as much as you can, because there's going to be times when you really need it. Especially when you're facing off against the boss fight. That's right, you've got several of them in this game, summoned by the female mummy herself, like this giant-ass arachnid spider. Not too hard as long as you keep shooting it until it turns red. In fact, all these boss fights are the same way. You keep shooting them, and as soon as they turn red, they're close to death. But this one is pretty simple once you get the pattern down. He'll bang the ceiling and cause rocks to fall down, which obviously you want to avoid, as well as these big green acid balls. And the pools of green acid on the ground you obviously want to avoid because it can drain your health very quickly. In fact, this isn't the only spot in the game you see it. There's plenty other places that have this. But, yeah. You keep shooting him, and thankfully if you do lose your health and ammunition, it does shoot little spiders out of his ass, which you can shoot and get some of it back. So that definitely makes it much easier. But then you got this T-Rex that looks like it's crossbred with a chicken or some kind of bird. I mean, yeah, just look at its arms and its chest. What's up with that? Though I'm not gonna lie, this one kinda gave me a hard time. Not just because he doesn't unleash any enemies that you can kill and get any of your ammunition or health back. He does actually shoot fireballs. That's his main weapon of attack. It's kind of a multi-phase fight too, actually. I mean, every time he has you up against the wall with a different sized platform in front of it. And then he'll break that wall down. That's where you have to get out of his way as he moves forward and tries to trample you onto the next phase, then the next. And then finally, the last part, there is no platform in the front, it's just a wall. So, not that it's really the hardest, it's just annoying trying to dodge every one of his moves, which do have a pattern like any other boss fight in this game. It's just, it kind of goes on a little long. But if you can make it to this last part, you can pretty much beat it. Then you got this flying god boss fight, which isn't as long, but it can have its moments where it's a little annoying with all the fireballs he throws at you, and even makes it rain fireballs on you too as well. And then that big staff he has on him, he'll multiply it in several of them and try to attack you with them. So again, you have to dodge it like anything else. And you could probably take note of the platforms going up and down on both the left and right side, which I guess come in handy if you're trying to dodge any of these projectiles or anything he throws at you. Otherwise, not too hard as long as you have a powerful enough weapon or two. They'll do the job. Then you got this big scarab beetle. Yeah, that's right. They couldn't keep that out of a mummy game, could they? And this one's not too hard or too long. You just gotta know the pattern. He'll shoot this laser beam thing that you obviously have to dodge, which looks like it's coming out of its ass, or eyeball in its ass, whatever the hell that is. And he'll go to the other side of the room and do the same thing. Again, you just gotta dodge and shoot. And then he'll start climbing around the wall, the ceiling, the other wall, and this is where it can get a little bit frustrating. You notice the platforms you have to be on are actually made of these cogs that don't spin. But as soon as he does the climbing around part, he'll drop the platforms down, and the cogs will start spinning. This is where things can get pretty frustrating, trying to stay on these cogs while they're spinning, because a lot of these go in different directions. Which does bring me to one more thing that I sort of did mention, the different environments this entire game has, whether you're inside or outside, and in this part you're inside of a clock tower. Yeah, just like Castlevania, they couldn't resist putting a clock tower level in this, and I'm not gonna lie, this was pretty damn frustrating. As I said, these cogs spin all different directions, especially the ones that are horizontal.
I mean, you have to have good precision and timing with your jumps, otherwise you end up falling. And I'm not gonna lie, this not only frustrated me, but actually infuriated me, trying to make it up these platforms. I mean, isn't it enough that we have these stinking enemies knocking you down? And yes, I should also mention, you got knockbacks. Ugh. As if you haven't seen enough of these in several of the Castlevania titles, they had to put one in this game, didn't they? But yeah, these cogs only do this spinning crap whenever he's pushing these platforms down, bringing up new ones, because you also have to be careful not to fall all the way down because there's spikes on the ground. But it won't kill you automatically, it'll just drain your health. So, get your ass back up, keep fighting him. It's once again a multi-phase fight, but it's not too long or too hard. As long as you have a powerful enough weapon, you can exterminate this giant insect for good. And then the final boss fight, or I should say boss fights.
Yeah, there's actually 2 of them at the very end of this game. And the first one is the female mummy herself. That's right, she tries to take you on one-on-one by teleporting, throwing boomerangs, summoning enemies. Not too hard as long as you really know where she's going to reappear and avoid getting hit by her and taking damage and use a powerful as hell weapon. She'll go down pretty quickly. But that's not it, obviously. I mean, did you expect the very last fight to be that quick and easy?
Yeah, obviously not, because she summons
The giant god of death.
yeah, this giant-ass demon-looking creature with a big head
And giant hands with big claws, trying to kill you. I mean, what else could he be looking to do? But the task is simple. Go for the head.
just like Thor should have done against Thanos.
Keep shooting the shit out of it, avoiding his deadly hands, which summon all sorts of fireballs that actually go in different directions. So, yeah, some are easy to dodge, and then others can be a bit more difficult to dodge. But again, his moves are like a pattern. Oh, and that female mummy also makes an appearance occasionally, throwing her boomerangs. So, better watch out there. But actually, it's not too lengthy or too hard of a boss fight. As long as you have a powerful enough weapon or two with plenty of ammunition left, use it to your advantage, and you can take this beast down. But even after all that, it's still not over. Just like at the beginning of the game, you gotta get your ass out of there as the whole place is crumbling, falling apart. And to quote Arnold Schwarzenegger in Predator, get to the chopper. And there you go. But then again, I'm really jumping the gun here because there's still quite a bit more ground I have to cover in this game. As I said, this map is enormous and there's a lot of places to explore and unlock. It's just like Metroid and Castlevania Symphony of the Night. And just like those games, you also get save points in fixed locations. As well as map upgrades, which unlock and let you see each part of this enormous map. And health packs, which are basically health upgrades. And as I said, you collect all these secondary weapons and explosives, but you can run out of ammunition, which can be an inconvenience. Though thankfully, you can collect several different bandoliers scattered across the entire map. This helps upgrade your maximum ammunition. Yeah, pretty helpful I would say, right next to the health upgrades. And then, most of the time after you beat a boss fight, you get a different ability unlocked, which help you access and go through different areas that you weren't able to go through before. And you get them by destroying these statues and collecting the scrolls. Like the ability to cling to the ceiling, and move back and forth, and even fire your weapon from up there. Pretty sweet. You got one that increases your running speed. You got one that allows you to jump higher. Yeah, I would say it's definitely useful for trying to make it to these too high to reach spots or platforms. And then finally you got the scroll, which allows you to go underwater. Yeah, because you probably noticed at the beginning of the game, you're only able to float on the water when you jump in. And of course you also have to be cautious of the stinking piranha fish that tries to come at you and drain your health. But yeah, you're only allowed to float on the water,
Until you get this scroll, it allows you to sink all the way to the bottom. And even then, there could still be enemies to kill, and you thankfully can use your weapons. Well, some of them. You obviously can't use the flamethrower, which is to be expected. I mean, it's underwater. But you can't use the shotgun for some reason. Okay, I don't understand that. But you can use the incinerator grenade. That makes what kind of sense? I have not a clue. But either way, you're able to go underwater without having to worry about oxygen or drowning, and for some reason there's knights down here. Yeah. It's best to use your plasma beam weapon on these suckers because, trust me, they'll shield pretty much any projectiles that you throw at them. But those are the scroll abilities you get from destroying these statues. There are several more actually that give you what's called trinkets. They're basically upgrades and different types of abilities that you get. You get one that increases your armor, which I can assume gives you less of a chance of losing your health quicker. You get one that gives your weapons much more power, which next to the armor upgrade is very essential, especially for taking out enemies and boss fights a lot quicker. You got one that gives you the phase dash ability, which just like it sounds, you perform this really fast dash. And you can do this whether you're on the ground or in the air. You can perform it sideways, go down, go up, and even go diagonally, whether it's up or down. So yeah, this is definitely useful if you're trying to go up from one platform to another really fast, or go sideways from one to another, or get over and dodge enemies. This move definitely makes those things much easier. But my most favorite trinket out of all of them, eliminating the knockbacks. Can't say much more there. Definitely makes the game, and especially platform jumping, much less frustrating, I would say. I mean, where was something like this in a Castlevania game? And also you should probably take note of these things, which act almost like the elevators in Metroid because they transport you from one section of the map to another, and you go up and down these things after you acquire the Rappel gear. And speaking of transport, you can also transport from different spots of the map with these helicopters. Yeah, that makes going from one side of the map to the other a lot less tedious if you're trying to backtrack and get something that you missed. I also neglected to mention that from the beginning of the game, there's this rolling move. Yeah, when you come across a low clearance area like one of these, where you can't go through, you hold down, and on a Switch controller you press B, and there you go. Simple as that. And there's tons and tons of relics that are scattered across the map that you can collect. What for? I guess if you're looking to get 100% completion. Yeah, I guarantee you're not going to be able to find every single one of them, at least not without an online walkthrough. I mean, these things could be just about anywhere hidden. But that doesn't matter. The main part of the game is making your way through, trying to collect all these upgrades and weapons, and beat all the boss fights, and all the different variety of enemies, through all the different hazards, throughout this entire enormous map. And all I can say is, this is a really fun action-adventure shoot-'em-up puzzle game with plenty of replayability and things to do that'll keep you busy for hours, with some difficult parts to be expected. I especially find the most frustrating thing in this is that when you die, you don't just die. Your character apparently becomes a zombie, and then you come back from the save point. Yeah, wouldn't it just be easier to come back from the save point? No, apparently all the weapons and upgrades that you collected are gone, and with that zombified version of yourself. And you have to kill that zombified version of yourself to get all of that back. I mean, talk about a pain in the ass. I don't know about you, but I found this rather frustrating, and it's kind of punishing just for dying every time. But once you kill him, you're back in business. All your stuff is back. Again, this is the one part of the game I find rather frustrating, because there are going to be parts where you end up dying. And this is kind of like salt on an open wound right here. Otherwise, I can't complain about this game. It has a great soundtrack, some really cool retro-looking graphics that almost resemble a 16-bit game. Yeah, if you play this, you'll know what I'm talking about. And like I said, It's a Metroidvania style game, similar to the 2D side-scrolling Metroid games and Castlevania Symphony of the Night. It bears a lot of resemblance in gameplay mechanics that those games had, as well as the new Prince of Persia game, The Lost Crown, which I have yet to review. I highly recommend that one, just to be short, sweet, to the point there. But anyway, let's not get off track here. Yes, it's based off of a crappy movie, like I said before, but like X-Men Origins Wolverine, it's a crappy movie that makes a pretty awesome game. For $20, you can't go wrong. I mean, I would definitely take this one over the newest Contra game that came out this year. It's definitely much more worth it. And to play it on the Nintendo Switch, it's just a plus for me, because how can you go wrong with being able to play it at home and take it on the go? It's a hidden treasure that should be unearthed and definitely given one go. So, my final verdict is a rockin' Weird Mode Wii Motion Plus up and a plain Weird Mode up. Believe me, this is an awesome adventure game based off of a crappy adventure movie. So, till next time, happy gaming.